Are you sure you know your neighbors well? What if there is a real maniac lurking amongst them? To be able to find out, watch our recap of a thriller called Disturbia. We see a father and son fishing in the sea against a backdrop of beautiful mountains. They get lucky to catch a huge fish, but it gets off the hook. In spite of this, they are having fun, joking around and looking absolutely happy. On the way home, the man calls his wife to brag about a good catch. At that moment, they see a huge off-roader cutting them off. They try to twist the wheel, but go off-road with their car flipping over several times. However, they are both alive, alas, not for long. The passenger side of their car gets crashed by another car. As a result, their car turns into scrap metal. The injured guy miraculously manages to get from under the wreckage, but his father no longer gives off any signs of life. Now his only parent is his mother. The guy's name is Cale. It's been a whole year since the accident occurred. Cale goes to school and lives an ordinary life. One day in his Spanish class, the teacher scolds the boy for not having his homework done and mentions his father. For this, Cale punches the teacher in the face with all his might. As he is still underage, he is sentenced to 3 months of house arrest. Now he has to wear an electronic bracelet on his leg and be aware that spending so much time at home can make him go crazy. Yeah, not really a joyful prospect. Cale sits in his room 24 hours a day, playing computer games and watching TV. The boy's mother tells him that it's not the right way to pass his time and turns off all the gadgets he has. To get her son to get off the couch and at least clean his room, she even cuts the table from the TV. Cale calls his friend Ronnie, but he's out partying with the girls and doesn't care about his mate. Enraged, the guy starts cleaning up, although it's more like trying to destroy the house. Tired of tidying up, Cale falls asleep right in his chair, but he gets woken up by hearing some noise. He looks out of the window and sees a van and workers moving furniture into the house across the street. It looks like he has new neighbors, and one of them is a very attractive girl with beautiful figure. Cale's heart begins to beat faster. His wicked thoughts are interrupted by the doorbell. He finds a burning package on the doorstep. The boy tries to put out the fire with his foot, but the package is full of dog feces, so the guy's white socks turn brown and very smelly. Cale hears the neighbor's boys laughing and realizes it was they who did it. Enraged, the boy forgets his house arrest and rushes off to catch the police. At some point, the sensor on his bracelet lights up red and starts beeping. Cale rushes back as fast as he can, but alas, it's too late. He notices a police car in front of his house. In the car, he sees a local officer who can't stand Cale. He twists his hand and lays him on the ground to handcuff him. The new neighbor watches the happening in amazement. What an ambush! Cale receives a warning, one more offense and he goes to court, so he marks the boundaries of where he can walk safely and pulls ropes around the perimeter of the area. He starts keeping an eye on his new neighbors, including that pretty girl named Ashley. He really likes this girl, especially when she takes off her clothes near the open window. One day, Cale is visited by his friend Ronnie. The guy brags about his observations and shows Ronnie his new neighbor. The girl is swimming in the pool in an open red bathing suit. The guys are thrilled. Cale dreams of meeting her. One day, he tries to get letters from his mailbox, but he can't reach them because of the bracelet on his leg. At that moment, the girl walks by and rushes over to help him. She seems to like Cale too. In the evening, the boy watches the news and learns that in the city there is a maniac kidnapping girls. After that, he rushes to his room, grabs his binoculars, and watches Ashley while she is doing yoga in her room. At night, Cale notices a car passing by. It is a dark Mustang belonging to Mr. Turner, his neighbor. The man is dragging 2 black bags somewhere. The guy notices a big dent in his neighbor's car, and he finds it very suspicious. In the morning, the guy finds a newspaper. On the front page, he sees a photo of another missing girl. He continues spying on Mr. Turner and sees him catching a rabbit in his yard and doing very cruel things to it. That poor animal. The boy copes with his anxious thoughts with the help of Ashley. The girl is swimming in the pool again, and Cale and Ronnie take turns watching her through the binoculars. The girl notices this and comes over to their house. While the guys are trying to quickly clean up Cale's room, Ashley takes the binoculars from the desk, looks out of the window and demands an explanation. Cale tells the girl about Mr. Turner's strange behavior and his suspicions. Together they begin their own investigation. At night, Ashley paints cute hearts on Cale's bracelet. At that moment, they see a car moving down the street. It's Mr. Turner, and he is not alone, but in the company of a young, red-headed girl. Cale and Ashley watch as the man takes the woman inside and tries to get her drunk. While the girl is dancing, Mr. Turner holds a knife. The guys begin to panic, but the man just cuts a piece of tag off the girl's dress and kisses her. Cale wants to kiss Ashley too, but at that moment, she gets a call from her mother, asking the girl to go home. Cale is bored. He starts spying on the boys who left a bag of dog feces near his door and notices them watching adult movies. The boy starts to laugh evilly, but suddenly he hears a loud woman's scream. Cale sees that the red-headed girl is trying to run out of Mr. Turner's house. She is very frightened. Cale tries to videotape everything, but his neighbor switches off the lights in the house. The guy calls his friend Ronnie in panic, and at that point he sees a car moving away from Mr. Turner's house. Behind the wheel, he notices someone with red hair, meaning that she's okay. The neighbor isn't a maniac, just a lover of young girls. In the morning, Mr. Turner comes to Cale's house. The boy is terribly frightened, but the neighbor behaves as if nothing happened. Moreover, Mr. Turner asks Cale's mother out on a date. Oh my god! In addition, Ashley decides to throw a party in her house. Cale watches the huge company through his binoculars and gets terribly angry. He sees the girl gently cuddling with some guy and becomes furious with jealousy. In his house, the guy turns the music on full blast and disrupts all the fun. At that moment, he sees angry Ashley bursting into his house. She turns off the music and threatens to throw Cale's phone away. He tells her about how he watched her, learned about her habits and tastes, and fell in love with her. And here, they have their first kiss. Suddenly, Cale hears strange noises. He and Ashley see Mr. Turner dragging a bag stained with blood into his house. In the morning, the boy calls Ronnie and asks his friend to get into his neighbor's car while the man is in the store buying a shovel. Ashley is following Turner, but gets knocked down by her friend and loses sight of the man. The girl rushes to the car to warn her friend of danger. Suddenly, Turner appears nearby and gets into the car. The man threatens Ashley and warns her of serious consequences. Upon coming home, the girl tells everything to Cale and Ronnie. She is worried and advises the boys to leave Turner alone. But the boys have no intentions of giving up. While Cale is setting up his camera, Ronnie bursts in and, horrified, tells Cale that he left his phone in Turner's car. Ronnie sneaks into his neighbor's garage and feels the smell of something rotten inside. The guy finds his phone as well as a big bag. It's all stained red with hairs inside. At that moment, the garage door closes and there is definitely someone inside. Cale hears the sound of fright and screaming. He grabs his bat and rushes to help Ronnie, despite the house arrest. The police arrive immediately on the scene. Cale tells the cops about the suspicious bag and begs them to check its contents. The officers look inside the bag and find a carcass of a dead deer. Cale feels disgraced. Now he will be tried in court. The only good news is that Ronnie is fine. The boy hid in the closet and wasn't caught by Mr. Turner. Moreover, he managed to save a surveillance tape. And there, Cale found something very suspicious. It's a woman's face. At this point, the villain realizes that he has been exposed. Cale's mother comes to him and asks not to sue her son. At first, the man behaves nicely, but suddenly grabs the woman with force and throws her into the wall. After that, Turner comes to Cale's house and knocks Ronnie out with a bat. Turner comes to Cale and they start fighting. Turner breaks everything in his path with the bat and grabs the guy by the throat. Cale flies over the table and then fights the maniac off with a piece of a broken chair. The guys run onto the street, but Turner catches up with him and knocks him onto the ground. They are fighting again, and at some point, Cale loses consciousness. Turner wraps duct tape around the guy's mouth and hands and drags him back into the house. The man decides to get rid of Cale and demands that he writes a suicide note, saying that it was him who decided to get rid of his mother and his friend. At that moment, Ashley walks into the house. Turner gets distracted for a second. Cale knocks the man on the floor and runs down the hallway. But the man catches up with him and they begin to fight yet again. Ashley rips Turner's face with her fingernails, after which the guy throws him down the stairs and they call the police. But the phone doesn't work. The only hope left is to go out of the range of the electronic bracelet. It will definitely make the cops arrive. As Turner breaks down the door, Cale and Ashley climb the roof and jump into the pool. Once outside, the guys split up. Cale runs to save his mom and Ashley to call the police. But the officer receiving the call is in no hurry at all and decides to finish his hamburger first. Cale breaks into Turner's house. Thanks to the security camera recording, he manages to find the secret room where the maniac has been hiding the girls. There, the guy sees something horrible, the bodies of missing women, but he doesn't find his mother among them. Cale continues his search. He sees a room that looks like an operating room. There are lots of different tubes, women's wigs, and a big freezer full of ice. The guy goes down the basement. At that moment, a police officer walks into Turner's house. Seeing the mayhem, he wants to call for backup. But Turner pounces on the man and wrings his neck. At the same time, Cale falls into a trap and falls into a pit filled with water. The pit is full of missing women's body parts. The boy screams in terror. He miraculously manages to get out and continues to look for his mother. Cale hears a faint moaning in the distance and hurries in the direction. In one of the rooms, he finds his mother tied up. The boy cuts the ropes and suddenly notices. It's Turner. The maniac has come for him. In another fight, at a great cost, Cale manages to severely wound the man and push him into that pit filled with water he has fallen into a few moments before. The boy looks down and sees that the villain no longer shows any signs of life. It's a new day. Cale gets rewarded for his heroic deed, and the police officer takes the bracelet off his leg. Now he's free. The boy rushes over to Ashley and they start kissing, and of course, they can't stop. Did you like our recap? Share your opinion, give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You've been watching the Movie Cat channel. I'll see you later.